I would also like to thank the BC provincial funding for the arts, something that is lacking at the moment if you read your local newspaper. Something without that funding, I don't think that I would be standing here this evening.
No other province in Canada has reduced support for the arts sector.
We're talking about thousands of jobs that are going to be lost because of these devastating cuts.
In BC, arts and culture and heritage generate 80,000 jobs in the creative sector and $5.2 billion of economic activity.
A lot of governments around the world are using arts and culture as a way to stimulate their economies.
This is a sector that, according to government statistics, produces significant returns on investment.
We ask you to think about culture as part of our individual and community identities.
Could we ever know each other in the slightest without the arts? Gabrielle Roy. She was a Canadian. She moved back to Manitoba and promptly married a gynecologist. What does this tell us? It tells us that Canadians know where to go to get connected to the creative force.
This is called the Wrecking Ball. It's largely organized by the theatre community, and it's a way for the theatre community to come together and to show each other work that relates to the idea that the art's being cut. We're hoping that people also, not just from the theatre community, but from the public are here. It's a bit of a fundraiser as well.
Artists that act, sing, dance, and you keep on doing it. And I never went to Studio 58, but I, for one, am grateful, and I know the city, really is as well. Yes? Yeah.
I can't wait to smash this.
Investing in the arts is really a wise thing to do when times are tough, because a lot of evidence shows that arts and culture, for every dollar the government invests in, they get back $1.36 just in direct taxes. That's just the taxes.
So BC is the only province in all of Canada that's been cut back in funding, and it's really unfortunate to hear that every other sector in BC is only being asked to be cut back by 5 to 7%, and the arts sector was slashed by 90% without warning. None of the arts organizations knew it was coming. I even talked to one organization director who said they felt foolish because they were so naive to the fact that the government was going to do this. They even had meetings and the government said, no, there's nothing to worry about, and then out of nowhere they were slashed by 90%.
If you took the big picture and this was the amount of money, the arts was this much. So when you look at it, it's such a minuscule amount, but how devastating it is to the arts.
In a way, the government is pickpocketing from charities and organizations because they can't budget properly. And their big argument is that it's either starving children or the arts, which is totally unfair and not true, because without funding to the arts, that's children, that's youth, those are families, and it's totally disconnected to what they're saying, and the government doesn't have an argument at all.
The artists that I know about in the crawl, we have now got some of our artists have just packed up and said, I'm so in debt, I have to get a job, and I'm going to just take a hiatus for 2 years. We have other artists that used to work in 600 square feet. They're now working in 200 square feet because they had to sublet the rest of their studio or give up their studio, move into a smaller studio. There's artists that are moving out of Vancouver because it's so expensive. So our artist community is dwindling.
It's laying people off. It's families losing income. It's kids not being able to go to school programs. A lot of the programs that were cut are charity organizations or organizations that are designated for youth. Getting youth off the street, providing them with meals.
So 16 years ago we bought the building and we divided it up so that we could all have studios, and some of us actually live here. So it is a way now, 16 years later, we realize the value in that is that we have protected ourselves. As long as we can afford the rising taxes in the city, but fortunately we're a group, so I think that we'll be okay.
Well, these arts cuts aren't just going to be affecting artist painting. They're going to be affecting you and your daily life, your quality of life. Vancouver as you know it. People are going to start leaving. Organizations and artists are going to start leaving the province. There'll be less tourists because the culture is not going to be as vibrant and as colorful as it is now. So we're going to see less events, less summer events, less festivals. I mean, already the Parade of Lost Souls for Halloween this year is canceled. I mean, this is going to be affecting our daily lives as we know it.
Without the artists, we don't really have a creative city or a creative province. And that's what people, I mean, we have the recreation down pat with the beautiful mountains and the water and all of that stuff. But creativity is so much part of our what makes BC beautiful. And so that's what we need to do as a group.
The government's actually betraying the people. And the people are the ones who put the government into power. So I mean, the people are the only ones that can change it. So I think as soon as people start realizing, I mean everyday people start realizing that this is going to be affecting them, I think that's when we'll see a change.
We need to somehow get the word out that without the artists, we don't really have a creative city or a creative province.
Always thinking about nourishing the body, but we also should be thinking about nourishing the soul, and that's ultimately what arts do. They nourish the soul. So a society without nourishment for the soul will be a very poor society.
We ask all of you to consider the ways that arts and culture touch your daily lives at home, in the streets, your children in schools.
Arts are part of the economy that drives this great city.